good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of WossyRadio. So today, we are back with the fourth and final game from round 1 of the Dragon Gym Challenge. Don't worry, in a couple of days, we'll bring you the first game from round 2. Oh, it's a doozy. I can already tell you it's a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. I've got some information. Now, today, we have got our last 2 competitors. We got the lovely Joe Bernard. He is playing a fighting deck using products like this. And we've got Alessandro Cremascoli. He's from iCaterpie. Joe is from Omnipoke. Using products like this. Now, both these chaps are fairly well known for their YouTube endeavours. There will, of course, be all the appropriate links in the description. We've got Joe and his fighting against Alessandro and his water. We've got Omnipoke against iCaterpie, and we got one more space left in the top 4. All the previous games are linked in the description, along with links to all of these products, the mats and sleeves and all. And Dragon Shield did help put this tournament together, so, you know, love to Dragon Shield. And there are TCGPlayer links in the description, should you want to go and get yourself the mat, the sleeves, etc. Because every round, someone's like, oh, where do I get that mat? That mat's beautiful. Or sleeves. Links in the description. So, sit yourself down, grab yourselves a nice cold beverage, and enjoy the final round 1 game. Yay! Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we've got Alessandro on the top playing water, Joe on the bottom playing fighting. Not that you'd know, both of them just have colourless Pokemon out. Now, Joe is playing an Ultra Ball. He's going to go and grab himself a Hitmonchan. That is the hit and run Hitmonchan. 30 to the active, switch to the bench. What is really cool about that Farfetch'd of Joe's is that it actually, if your opponent has any tools on, you do 90 damage and discard all of the tools, which is very, very fun. It's basically going to lock Alessandro out of tools or give Joe really good damage for a single energy. Either way, that sounds like a good thing for Joe. Now, Alessandro, he's got a Minccino and a Pidgey on the bench. They're just going to evolve into Cinccino and Pidgeotto. They're just for consistency. The Oranguru's the one that's got resource management. That's going to allow him to reuse all of his annoying tricks. We've limited them to 2 of each card in this tournament. Alessandro's chosen to go Oranguru, and he's going to try and flout that restriction. There was conversation between Stefan and myself about banning Oranguru in this tournament. We decided in the end that actually, no, it wasn't really worth banning it, because we did want to allow for control decks, even though they might not be as fun for some people as they are for others. We thought it would be restricting deck choice a little bit too much. Now, remember the rules here. It is 2 of each card. We are in the standard format. GXs and Vs are banned, but Prism Stars are allowed. And you do have to have more of your type of Pokemon than colourless. You are colourless in your type only. So Alessandro does get a memory energy, it looks like, onto Oranguru there. Not that Oranguru actually has any pre-evolutions, but yeah, it's there. Now, Joe does get Air Balloon down onto Farfetch. Actually has a retreat cost of 1, could have used U-turn board, but nice to have that because it covers a bunch of other Pokemon. Now, Hitmonchan does go into the active. Remember that he is hitting for weakness here, so we've got 60 damage with hit and run. But remember, Hitmonchan's hit and run is you may switch this with one of your bench Pokemon. There's no saying that you should. Oh, and we see a Crushing Hammer. It is a heads, so down goes that energy. So Joe chooses to stick in the active. He was building up for a big old Magnum Punch. Unfortunately for Joe, Magnum Punch is not going to work. Hey-ho. The good news for him is that Oranguru only actually has 120 HP, so he will actually get a KO with hit and run anyway. Well, a second hit and run. So we do see the energy coming down. It looks like he's actually... Oh, no, he's just using resource management to get his supporter back and a Crushing Hammer. Oh, never mind. Now, he did actually... And it's a card we see very, very seldom here, although it is a fun little card. Oh, looks like he's lost. Oh, he's had to play a Magnolia and he's lost his Diancie Prism Star. He doesn't want Diancie getting stuck in the active against an Oranguru, which is why that's choosing to go into the lost zone rather than bench it. He doesn't want to risk it being on the bench. Now, the supporter card Alessandro played was Blue's Tactic. It actually lets you draw until you've got 8 cards in your hand at the end of your turn. And when I reviewed it initially, I told you that it was only really good in stall decks. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a stall deck. Now, Joe does actually have a Beastite going on there, but it does look like it is in the discard pile. And he does get a Minccino over there on the bench. I can see what he's doing here. He knows he's playing against a control deck, so he's trying to make sure that Alessandro cannot trap him. Remember, that Oranguru's got resource management, which means Alessandro is going to be able to just reuse any cards that he likes. That's bad news for Joe. It's going to be easy for him to gust, is what I'm saying. Now, Joe does do the hit and run a second time, gets a KO on the Oranguru there. And now Minccino comes into the active. As it stands at the moment, Joe's in an excellent position here. This might turn around in a minute, but for now, he's doing pretty well. Now, having said that, Alessandro is finally starting to get set up. He's got a Lily's Pokédoll up in the active there. On the bench. He's actually got a couple Lily's Pokédoll on the bench. So he is in a fairly nice position to just be blocking. He has got some options for gusting. There are options for gusting in this tournament. They're not great. Oh, we see a Pokemon catcher, but that comes out tails. That's a good example of what I'm talking about. The fact that we do actually have these options for gusting, but they're not amazing, which means that Joe is probably going to have to go through those Lily's Pokédoll. Bearing in mind that Alessandro can just reuse those Lily's Pokédoll over and over and over again. That's not a great thing here. Now, it does look like he's got... Oh, look, we had a double custom catcher there. Bringing a Pokemon in the active with no energy on. And then it looks like we've got a Magnolia for Alessandro. Of course, one of the things that Alessandro is going to try and do here is get down to a fairly low hand size so that he can guarantee to draw into what he wants after a resource management. So we see another Crushing Hammer. It is ahead, and he's actually managed to completely run Joe out of, well, much of anything here, to be honest with you. He's got no energy. There's really not much going on here at all. So, yeah, that's not ideal. Now, he is playing a Pokemon Communication there. Goes and gets himself a Cinccino. That is the one that will just allow him to... well, just discard a card from his hand and draw 2 cards. It's a very, very nice card that's going to help him out rather nicely. And I want to say that's a Goldeen on his bench there. I think that's a Goldeen. Alessandro does play Seeking. It is the Energy Denial Seeking, which is going to get fairly annoying. He does also play Araquanid, though that's not going to be terribly relevant against Joe. Could be, I suppose. And he's also playing Slowking as well. They're the water Pokemon that he actually plays. But he has got a Lily's Pokédoll in the active here. Joe's going to need to try and get something rolling. What does he have? Now, it looks like it's a Hitmontop in the active. Hitmontop actually hits 60 on everything, as Joe plays a Cynthia here. But Hitmontop only actually does 60 to everything after Joe has attacked with Hitmonlee. And generally speaking, you don't want to attack with Hitmonlee until you have attacked with Hitmonchan. You can. No, that's a lie. You actually can't. So Hitmonchan hits 30 and switches to the bench. If you used Hit and Run, you can then use Special Combo with Hitmonlee to do 90 to one of the bench Pokemon. And if you've used that, you can then use Finishing Combo with Hitmontop to do 60 to everything. That's how Joe doesn't go through the Lily's Pokédoll. but he needs to get the combo going, and that's what Alessandro is going to try and stop him doing. It's got to be Hitmonchan one turn, Hitmonlee the next turn, Hitmontop the third turn. It's got to be like that. Otherwise, the whole combo fails, and that is the combo that wins Joe essentially the game. So, good luck to Joe. Now, he has gone and used an adventure bag to get a couple of tools, including a vitality band. Looks like he is... Oh, that's a B-string being played there. One would imagine that Joe has probably got a Buzzwole in his deck here. As it stands, he just... Oh, he's got the air balloon on Hitmontop. Now, it looks like he's actually... Oh, he was thinking Chinchino, but he's gone for Hitmonchan. Chinchino, remember, as well as being good for drawing cards, does have an attack that for 1 energy does 40 damage and accelerates an energy. If your opponent isn't attacking and KOing you, then they do actually have an option to just, or Joe would, to just sit there with Chinchino and accelerate energy, just get that energy back from all those crushing hammers. So Lily's Pokédoll goes down here. Joe has taken a prize off that Oranguru early game, but that is the only prize we've actually seen be taken during this game. As it stands, Joe's taken a prize. Alessandro has not taken a prize. We'll get there. We'll get there. So Lily's Pokédoll goes up into the active. Alessandro... Those Lily's Pokédoll are fun, but he can't just be using resource management every turn until he's got Joe in a bit of a lock, until he's got something stuck in the active. Now, Joe's got both his air balloon down there, but remember Joe's Pokemon are hitting weakness against Oranguru, so it's not just about getting the lock on for Alessandro, it's about making sure he's not getting KO'd. But if he wants to keep using Lily's Pokédoll, he needs to use Oranguru to keep reusing Lily's Pokédoll. He needs to try and get something stuck in the active. Incidentally, that is why Joe didn't play Diancie Prism Star. All his other Pokemon can attack and do useful things. Diancie really isn't a good Pokemon. It just sits on the bench to do extra damage. It is a prime candidate for being stuck in the active, and ain't nobody got time for that. Now, Alessandro is really going through the opportunities here, through the things. You see he's got a Chaotic Swell down. That means that if Joe plays a Stadium, it is getting discarded before it actually does anything. But he needs to get something rolling here. He needs to either start committing to resource management, getting a Seeking up to try and get rid of energy. Of course, Seeking getting rid of energy is not an ideal situation, given that Joe's playing single energy attackers. Joe's deck is built, seemingly, around Chinchino, single energy attacker, Hitmonchan, single energy attacker, Hitmonlee, single energy attacker, Hitmontop, single energy attacker. And you'll see now that because Alessandro's not been using resource management, all of a sudden Joe's actually built up a bunch of energy on the field. He's used Chinchino to get an energy onto Hitmonchan. Now there's free energy out. Now, one thing that is very, very cool here is Alessandro is actually using Rosa. And one of the really cool things with Rosa here is that it works if a Lily's Pokédoll was KO'd the previous turn. I said it was Golding, it was Slowpoke. I meant to correct myself and didn't. My apologies. So using Rosa to search for a trainer, a Pokemon, and an energy, even though you didn't lose a prize, you just had a Lily's Pokédoll KO'd. Now, Slowking for a single water energy lets you look at your opponent's hand and put a card into the Lost Zone. And this is actually especially good in this particular format, because in this format, we can only play 2 of each particular card. So the goal very simply is to make sure your opponent is run out of... Oh, and there's not very much there. Now, yeah, the fact that Joe's got to show it to the camera to show Alessandro is good. Alessandro wants to Lost Zone the energy. And he might be able to keep this going now. And he's not being hit for weakness, got 120 HP. Alessandro can go down by 5 prizes. That's not a problem. The problem is losing 6. So he's going to try and run Joe out of any of his resources here and then just have a jolly old time. So... okay, so we do see Joe using that Cinccino's ability, just draw a couple of cards. I mean, to be fair, that Cinccino's doing a decent amount of damage here. He's, doing 50 damage while accelerating energy. That's not too bad. I've seen much worse attacks. Now, it does look like a Marnie there. And he does get a Hitmonlee down. Now, if Joe can start pulling off the combo, that will change everything. If he can get the Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, Hitmontop combo going, that will be amazing. Now, the other thing is he could actually just hit for 70 every turn with Hitmonchan. Certainly seems to be where he's going. He's using Cinccino to just keep accelerating energy onto Hitmonchan here so that he can... well, there's two things. He can either keep hitting for 70, or he can keep doing the hit and run, bearing in mind that even if Alessandro starts taking down a bunch more energy, Joe's got 2 he can lose before he can't attack. Now he is using Team Yell Grunt there. Puts an energy from a Pokemon into your hand. Alessandro smartly getting it off of Cinccino. And then getting it off of Hitmonchan. And then using Slowking. And guess what he's going to Lost Zone? He's going to Lost Zone the energy. That was a really nice play from Alessandro there. Get the energy off the field into the hand so he can then Lost Zone it with Slowking. But also getting it off the Cinccino because it's the Cinccino that's keeping the energy out there. While Cinccino is recovering energy for Joe, those Crushing Hammers aren't doing anything. So Cynthia comes down here. Is going to give Joe a new hand of 6 cards. He's managed to keep energy on the field, but here's the thing. Joe is not advancing his board state here really much at all. He's not taking any prizes. What he's been doing for the last few turns is replacing energy. Alessandro's been getting rid of it. Joe's been replacing it. It doesn't seem like Joe's getting any closer to winning this game. It just seems like he's reacting to the disruption that Alessandro's throwing on here. And that's playing into Alessandro's favour. When you're playing a disruption deck, a control deck, you're not looking to have these giant blockbuster turns. You are trying to whittle your opponent down over the course of a fairly long game. And that's what Alessandro's doing really well here. Of course, he's only lost zone 2 energy. There's plenty of time for Joe to make a comeback. Now, Pokemon Catcher does come down here, and we have no idea what it is. It's a Tails. Alessandro's not been lucky on those coin flips too well today. He's done alright, I suppose. He's hit a couple of Crushing Hammer. Now he plays Tate and Liza. Remember, that could be a shuffle draw to 5, or it could be a switch. And also remember that it doesn't matter how low Alessandro's deck goes if he's willing to commit to an Oranguru with resource management. Unless Joe plays Belelba and Bryson Man, which he probably isn't. Belelba and Bryson Man discards the top 3 cards of each player's deck. So the goal here is, if your opponent is just using Oranguru to keep a deck of 3 cards, you just go for it. Drop Belelba and Bryson Man. They lose. So it looks like Alessandro's lost zoning another energy there. Now, you did see a little bit of a jump there as Joe is playing a Tate and Liza to get himself a Farfetch'd in the active. Oh, no, he's not, sorry. He played Tate and Liza to get Hitmonchan into the active, then hit and run to KO the Slowking. The slight jump there was because Joe ran out of recording space on his computer about 15 minutes into the match. So we had to cut together from 2 files, hence there was a little bit of a jump. But we're back now and it's one continuous file all the way to the end, so we will be fine. We saw the Slowking get KO'd. We saw the fighting energy get lost zoned. We missed nothing, ladies and gentlemen. Life is good. Now, Joe has managed to take 2 prizes here. and he's attacked with Hitmonchan. Which means, in theory, next turn he attacks with Hitmonlee to do 90 to 1 of his opponent's bench. Then the turn after, he attacks with Hitmontop to do 60 to everything. And at that stage, he's in a very good position in terms of actually taking all the prizes that he needs to take. So where does Alessandro go here? Does he bring up the Slowking to keep going where he's going? Looks like he is. Up comes the Slowpoke. Going to evolve it into Slowking in a moment, one would assume. Plays Lieutenant Surge's strategy to allow him to play 2 supporters in one go. Oh, and this is nice. So Rose is going to get a trainer, a Pokemon, and an energy. You imagine Water Energy and Slowking. Oh, I was going to say... See, I was expecting him to grab a supporter that he would then be able to play right away. He's actually gone for Ordinary Rod, presumably because he needs to get Slowking back. He's gone for a Jupiter, and obviously he's then just gone and got the Water Energy. Now, the Araquanid I'm assuming he's playing is the one from Unified Minds. It is Water double colorless, 80 damage. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon's attacks cost 1 colorless energy more, and its retreat cost is 1 colorless energy more. Yes, and just double checking, that is the Araquanid he's playing, which is very expensive energy-wise for his deck. But I suppose it can completely lock some decks down, so it's probably worth the investment. Now remember, he is allowed to play another supporter this turn. He must have one in his hand that he doesn't mind using, because otherwise you imagine he'd have gone and got it with Rosa, unless he was just desperate. Now he does go and get the Seaking out eventually. The Seaking is down, and it looks like he's actually playing Professor... Oh no, sorry, I must have been using Cinccino's ability to discard it. Now he plays a Faber, and he's actually choosing to... Ooh... Now, I think that it doesn't matter, but that air balloon should have gone to the lost zone. Faber doesn't discard. Faber puts to the lost zone. Yes, doesn't matter. I don't believe Joe's got any way to recover tools, but just as a bit of housekeeping, that air balloon from the Faber should have gone into the lost zone rather than going into the discard pile. Oh, there's not really anything terribly good in Joe's hand that Alessandro wants rid of. So he just goes for the Cynthia and Caitlyn. It's a supporter. It'll work. Joe's having a look through his options now. Has that Faber won Joe the game? Now, Joe's playing Oranguru as well here. Does Joe have any way to get that Farfetch'd out of the active? He is using Cinccino's ability here. But Joe needs to be able to get that Farfetch'd out the active. Otherwise, he's going to deck out and lose. Now, he doesn't need much. An energy, an air balloon, any kind of switching. But he's got 4 energy on the field, 3 energy in the lost zone. We know he didn't have any in his hand. Oh, and it looks like he's already passed the turn, mind you. Oh. And now Powpad comes down, getting the Faber back. And the Team Yell Grunt. It's pure energy denial going on here. And Joe's not rocking big one-hit KOs. Joe chips away in this deck. That's what the deck does. It chips away. It's not one-hit KOing. And that's a slight problem. Because this makes the energy denial more effective. It feels like Joe would have been very successful if he'd got going this game. He hasn't gotten going. Oh, we see Blue's Tactics come down. That's going to give Alessandro 8 cards at the end of his turn. It's funny when you play Blue's Tactics, you've got to be really careful. Because if you just if you draw a whole bunch of... Yeah, if you draw a whole bunch of cards at the end of your turn, such that there's none left in your deck, you will then lose at the beginning of your next turn. So you do need to be a little bit careful. So Martial Arts Dojo gets Lost Zone there. Can Joe get Farfetch'd out the active? What's he got? He's got a Marnie. And the problem is, it's not just the fact that Joe's not taking prizes, but every turn that Joe has that Farfetch'd stuck in the active is one more turn that Alessandro's got to go after his energy. And that makes it harder and harder. Every turn that goes by makes it more difficult for Joe to actually get anything rolling at the end of this, because Alessandro's got one more turn for Crushing Hammer, one more turn for Team Yell Grunt and Faber and all of that. As a nice little side note, he did actually discard the Boswell there, so confirming our suspicions that he does in fact play Boswell. B-String is another card we considered banning. It was banned in the fairly similar Professor Cup over in, well, the Pokemon ran officially, but we decided it didn't give any one typing a particular advantage, and that's been proven in. David's Darkness deck we saw was really good with it, but outside of that, it's not really given a huge advantage, so we're cool with it. Now, the good news is Joe did get the energy, so he could retreat his Farfetch'd. But he's now back to 30 damage, and he may switch to the bench if he likes. And there's a lot of thinking going on. So instead, going to go for Chinchino, which does do more raw damage, does 50 damage, lets him accelerate in energy, and he goes for Oranguru, so you know he's thinking resource management. He's thinking, you know what, I can get some of my resources back as well. So, Alessandro here, what's he got? You know he's looking for that Team Yell Grunt. We saw him power pad it back in. And he's going to be looking to put it in Joe's hand and then Lost Zone it with the Slowking. Oh, and he's hit it! That is the Team Yell Grunt. That puts the energy into Joe's hand, not top of his deck. Goes into his hand. Little bit of a discussion here, reminding what the card does. But Team Yell Grunt does actually put an energy from one of your Pokemon into your hand. And it's a perfect combo with Slowking here, because then you've got an energy in your hand. And guess what he's going to Lost Zone? He's got 4 of Joe's energy in the Lost Zone. And it does look a little bit like Joe might be conceding here. He's reached for his mouse, which is a weird thing to say in a Pokemon game tournament played with real cards. But it looks like... Is that a concession from Joe? Oh no, he might have just been looking up a card scan. He might have just been double checking something. Hasn't conceded yet. You know he's very low on cards, is Joe. He's still got 4 prizes left to take. He's got to get something rolling quickly. This game has swung very strongly in Alessandro's favour. And because Joe's still got 4 prizes left to take, that gives Alessandro a bunch of options in terms of, you know what? I can chill for a turn or two. I can just leave it for a little while, because you know what? I'm all right. I can use Slowking, get it knocked out, use Oranguru, get it knocked out, because you've still got to take 4 prizes to win. So what are Joe's options here? Still not got a KO on the Slowking. And Joe's just counting up his energy there. How many are in his discard? How many are on the field? How many are in the Lost Zone? Because there comes a point where you literally cannot come back. There comes a point where there's so much energy on the field / discard / Lost Zone that you cannot build up a reliable attacker. It's all very well and good having predominantly single energy attackers, but if all your energy is gone, nothing you can do. Also note, as well as playing Boswell, Joe is actually playing Stack Attacker as well. Great target for the B-String, although I fear if he does that, that Seeking might have something to say about it. So Alessandro still using Slowking. That's not really much there at all. Ordinary Rod. I mean, it had to be the Rod, didn't it? So that he could, stop Joe getting that energy back. And he plays Rosa. Does he have any energy? And it looks like he's picking up all of his cards. Looks like Alessandro has taken game 1. He has completely run Joe out of resources. He tried. He kept going. kept trying to make something work, but there comes a point in the game where actually, no, this isn't working. I don't have the resources I need to finish out the game, and that, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, is that. So moving on over into game 2 then, we did just skip a little bit of the setting up because, you know, save a bit of time. We see that Joe lost game 1, but I still don't think Joe should be terribly worried. If Joe can just start getting his combo off with his Hitmon dudes, he should be absolutely fine. He's gone first, he's got an energy on Minccino. We do see that there is a Jupiter down for Alessandro. He's got a Lily's Pokédoll, and he goes and plays himself a Cynthia. He's going to get himself a new hand of 6 cards. I feel like Joe's got a really good game plan against here. And, you know, one attack from Hitmontop will take out any Lily's Pokédoll on the field. They'll do an awful lot of good. He's just got to actually get there. He's just got to get the combo rolling. Now, the good news is he's using all basic attackers, and he's got an energy on his active Minccino, which means he is going to be able to retreat an attack if he so wishes. Now, he actually gets Cinccino right away, discards B-side to draw 2 cards. It looks like Joe's had a pretty bad start. Does get himself a quick ball, has to drop a B-string, which kind of sucks. But then again, against Alessandro's energy denial deck, there is a very strong argument that you don't want to be using Buzzwole and Stack Attacker, both of whom are quite energy hungry and have quite large retreat costs, because they seem like the kind of Pokemon that Alessandro could stick active. Now, he does get the energy onto Hitmonchan, but decides to just attack with Cinccino, and I don't think this is a bad plan. It does mean he doesn't open up Hitmonlee for next turn, but what you really want to do is switch into Hitmonlee, especially in a matchup where you know Hitmonlee isn't getting KO'd, and Joe just didn't have that option. He's had a fairly slow start, but he's got Cinccino on the board, he's got his Hitmonchan, he went first, and it's not like Alessandro's got some phenomenal start here. Oh, he's actually playing Hapu. Hapu's a win. Hapu's a very aggressive supporter card. You look at the top 6 cards of your deck, you put 2 into your hand and discard the other 4, which is pretty full on, but hey, whatever works. Whatever works, ladies and gentlemen. So, does look like he's drawing a couple more cards with Cinccino. He's getting himself rolling. Needs to start attacking. No, he doesn't really need to start attacking though, does he? He's got the KO with Cinccino this turn. And it's not like Alessandro's got much going. Now, here's the counter argument. The sooner he uses Hitmonchan, the sooner he can use Hitmontop. And right now, using Hitmontop would be amazing. So he is just attacking with Hitmonchan to get the KO on Jupiter there, which is quite nice. Takes himself a prize, and now Alessandro throws up Lily's Pokédoll, but remember, now Joe's got options. Joe can use Hitmonlee next turn to hit the bench and KO one of those 2 Slowpoke, as an example. He can just ignore Lily's Pokédoll, and then at some point he uses Hitmontop and both the Lily's Pokédoll go down. That's what Joe can do. If he gets, and we haven't actually seen the combo rolling at all here, but if he gets it rolling, it completely bypasses Lily's Pokédoll. And last game was very much a worst case scenario for Joe. He was just poking a little bit of damage here and there while his opponent wrecked all his energy. It really wasn't what his deck, I hope at least, what his deck was set out to do. Fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen. Fingers crossed. So, now he's able to get himself a new hand with Tate and Liza. Is he able to get any evolutions wrong? He does get a memory energy. Now, this is something we haven't actually mentioned yet, so we should probably have a quick chat about it now. Although he is using the Slow King for the single energy attack, he does actually have options with memory energy. Now, that particular Slow Poke is the one from Unbroken Bonds. I'm going to be honest with you, the memory energy really doesn't do very much. But the Jupiter actually really does. It's something we've not mentioned yet that we maybe should have. I mentioned the Arachnid that can slow your opponent down. That's a really good one. But don't forget that Jupiter does have an attack, which, for 1 water energy, stops your opponent retreating during your opponent's next turn. Can't just use it for a memory energy, unfortunately, but still, it's there and it works. Definitely something to bear in mind. Now, Joe has got 2 energy on his Hitmonchan here. If he can get a 3rd energy on, he, I believe, can get a 1-hit KO on that Slowpoke. Yep, 70 HP Slowpoke, 70 damage from Hitmonchan. So, he might actually be able to get this working right now. Does he have the 3rd energy? No, he doesn't have the 3rd energy. Never mind, ladies and gentlemen, never mind. He does 40 because of the martial arts dojo. Oh, that would have been sweet. Going up 2 prizes this quick would have been lovely. Now, the question for Alessandro is, does he have Slowking? Having said that, the numbers still totally work out for Joe. Because with a 3rd energy and martial arts dojo, that's 80 damage, which would then get a KO on that Slowking, so Alessandro would get 1 attack before it gets taken down. Although Alessandro is playing an energy denial deck, can he really lose to a player who's getting free energy onto a Hitmonchan? Now, he does play Professor Magnolia, and we've seen Magnolia from both players in the last couple of turns. And what that's basically telling you is that both of these players know they need to get something rolling. Both of them are slightly worried about their start. Both of them just really want to get rolling. Now, he has got a Crushing Hammer. Comes up heads, so that takes away the threat of a KO next turn. Oh, and a second heads on Crushing Hammer. So we said he wasn't hitting the Crushing Hammer and all last turn as well as he might like in the previous game. Double heads on Crushing Hammer is huge. That's going to help him turn the game around. Looked like Joe was having a really rocking start. All it takes is double Crushing Hammer heads to, forgive the pun, make it all come crashing down. So once again, we just see Diancie Prism Star get thrown away. Not into it. Does not want it to be a liability. Now, we do see Cynthia and Caitlin coming down here, which is going to get him a supporter card back. Looks like it's a Professor Magnolia, and then draws 3 cards as well. Okay. Does he have an energy? Now, remember, an energy would get the KO. Alessandro whiffed the Slowking last turn, which means a single energy here will then go... Oh, he does have Ordinary Rod to get 2 of those fighting energy back, and also a Minccino and a Farfetch'd. Remember, one of the ways Alessandro wins, well, pretty much the best way he wins, is by decking you out, making you run out of cards in your deck. So clearly it's a very, very good thing here for Joe to be playing Ordinary Rod and recovering 4 cards, the maximum possible number. Does he have the energy for this turn, though? He doesn't. That's big. Because if he had the energy, he gets a KO on Slowpoke. Now it looks like Alessandro has a chance to retort. Oh, couldn't play the Rosa because there was no KO, though. So he does have to play another Magnolia. So really digging through his deck very, very fast is Alessandro here. He is going through that deck as fast as he can. Does he finally have a Slowking? Worth pointing out, he only has that Slowpoke left on the field here because he hit double heads on Crushing Hammer last turn. Bearing in mind, if he can only play 2 Crushing Hammer in his deck, getting both of them in one turn and hitting heads on both of them in one turn is pretty huge. He does get a second memory energy here, but it looks like he might have whiffed the Slowking again. He has. Oh my goodness. He is, and it's not for lack of trying. Now here comes a great ball. A bunch of energy in the top of his deck there. Has he got one that he likes? Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, find a Pokemon, put it into your hand. Oh, and he's also playing a Pokemon Communication here. So essentially, he's grabbing any Pokemon, it doesn't really matter which one from the Great Ball, and then playing Pokemon Communication to go and swap it for what he wants. I was going to say, presumably a Hitmonlee here. So he can attack with Hitmonchan and then Hitmonlee to get something off of the bench. And he can get KOs off the bench. He can get rid of a Pidgeotto off the bench, for instance. That would totally work. Now, ditches the Rosa. Yeah, Rosa's not so good for Joe because he's not having anything KO'd. But he does get the energy off of that, which is lovely. So now he is able to attack. And because Alessandro whiffed the Slowking, that gives Joe a KO on the Slowpoke. And then flicks to a Lily's Pokédoll or Lily's Clefairy Doll. That's a great card. Because now, next turn, Joe can put that on the bottom of his deck. And then grab Hitmonlee, hit for 90 to the bench. We might finally be seeing Joe's deck do what Joe's deck is supposed to do. Oh, and Alessandro's got the Slowking. It's just a turn too late. See, the other thing Joe could do here is take out that Pidgeotto. Alessandro's seen the same thing I have. Because as it stands, that is the only consistency card he's actually got on his side of the field. There's one Pidgeotto, no Chinchino. So he does need to be able to get something going here. Now, he is going to ordinary rod a couple of Pokemon back in, including a Slowking. Finally has a Slowking. Oh, but you know what he's going to probably do is bring up that Slowking and try and Lost Zone an energy. Remember, Joe needs an energy. Oh, and Blue's Tactics. A great card in Alessandro's deck. Also, how lovely is it that we gave Alessandro the blue deck and then he uses Blue's Tactics in it? Now, he chose not to use Oh, he probably didn't have the energy for Slowking, which means that Joe then gets an energy onto Hitmonlee. And this is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely huge. Slowking does need a water energy, not a colorless. So it looks like he actually didn't have the requisite energy there. So Joe now is able to get Lily's Clefairy Doll out the active, get the Hitmonlee rolling. And he's got a bunch of options, but you've got to imagine he's... Oh. I mean, you would say Pidgeotto to get the prize and take away the option. Oh, and he's got Hitmon top down as well. So we wouldn't go for Pidgeotto, because Pidgeotto's got 60 HP and will be taken down by Hitmontop the following turn. So he's probably going to soften up either Slowking or Seaking, probably Slowking. Yeah, and he does. So he does a 90 to Slowking. What this means is, if Joe is able to attack with Hitmontop next turn, it's going to get rid of both of Lily's Pokédoll. It's going to KO both of those birds, even if the Pidgey evolves, and it's going to take down Slowking. Joe is going to be taking 3 of his remaining 4 prizes in one go, and although that Seaking won't be KO'd, it's going to be right on the verge. This is what I've been talking about for the last 40 minutes about Joe's deck. It's the combo. Now, Slowking here clearly is going after the energy. He knows that Joe has got to be able to use Hitmontop with an energy. So if there's an energy in Joe's hand, Alessandro's going to Lost Zone it. If there are 2, however... Oh no, that's got 70 HP. That will survive. It will just survive. Otherwise, Joe would be winning the game there and then. Of course, Alessandro needs something to attack with next turn. So he still needs to put the Slowpoke down. It's going to survive. Only just, unless Joe could gust it into the active, and then he would KO it using the Martial Arts Dojo with the extra 10 damage, and then he would actually take all 4 prizes in one go. Oh, there's 1 energy in his hand. But he does have Professor Magnolia, and he does have Ordinary Rod. So in theory, if he's got any energy in the discard, he can rod them back, then play Magnolia. I believe Pokemon Catcher Energy would win him the game. Although we need to check what the retreat cost of Hitmonlee is here. Okay, it is just a retreat cost of 1. Oh, so he chooses to retreat into Lily's Pokédoll here. Oh, of course, but it doesn't matter. Yes, because Lily's Pokédoll, you don't retreat. You put it on the bottom of your deck. So you can retreat and then get rid of Lily's Pokédoll and still attack. So it's very simple here. Joe's looking for an energy. Pokemon Catcher energy. I believe he plays Catcher. I think we've seen Catcher. That would actually win him the game, because then he'd be able to do 70 to the Slowpoke and that would win. But I don't think we need to get too greedy here. I think he's in a very strong position. A much stronger position than he was before. So, Joe plays a quick ball here. Not for anything particularly important. He's thinning out his deck. He's thinning out his deck so that when he plays the Magnolia, there's one fewer card in there, which means he's more likely to draw what he needs to draw to win the game. There's the energy onto Hitmontop. And there's Lily's Pokédoll going down. No Catcher, it looks like. So I don't think he wins the game this turn. He does KO the Slowking. He does KO both the birds. He does get rid of the Pokédoll. He goes down to one prize remaining. And basically any attack now is probably going to win him the game. That was absolutely huge. And that's kind of my point here. This is why I was feeling confident about Joe's chances going into this match. Because if he attacks with Hitmontop, Pidgeotos go down, and Pokédoll go down. Everything else only half goes down. But still, that ain't too bad, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't too bad at all. So, Joe has really put himself in a very, very good position. I don't want to say he's won this game, but I do want to say that it is overwhelmingly likely that he will win this game. I think that's probably a fair thing to say at this stage. Is there anything Alessandro's been holding back? Are there any... And he's got a very tricksy deck, mind you. Are there any last tricks he's got? Anything that we've not seen yet that he could use to swing this in his favour? He's got a Pokemon Catcher. It's a heads. That's nice. See, the problem is he's got to bring up Chinchino. But even then, Chinchino with an energy gets a KO right now. To be fair, Energy Choice, Energy Vitality Band would leave him 10 damage short. Energy Vitality Band Martial Arts Dojo would get the KO, but I believe one's in the discard, one's in the lost zone, so that kind of becomes a moot point here, unfortunately. So, he's got Balabra and Bryson, man. So what does Joe have? No energy here. So he's giving Alessandro just that little bit of extra time. There's an energy. Does he have the Slowking? Oh, he doesn't have the Slowking. Does Joe have an energy? Any energy? Bearing in mind he's got the energy. Doesn't even need to use Chinchino's ability. He's got the energy, plays it down, attacks with Chinchino, gets a KO on Slowpoke, and Joe takes a decisive game 2 here. That was what we were expecting from Joe's deck. The one attack with Hitmontop really made the difference, and that was it. So as we move into the third and final game here, you've got to think Joe's a pretty heavy favourite. Unfortunately, Alessandro's deck is very slow and depends on getting rid of energy. Joe's got a bunch of single energy attackers, and if he can get, those 3 attacks off in a row, and they're all basics, they're all single energy attackers, that's basically it. Now, he does start with a Hitmonlee. He plays Quick Ball, presumably for a Hitmonchan. The other thing we could have seen him go for here is Minccino, and you'll see he's just dropping those B-String, and it's not a surprise, right? Joe, he hasn't been playing anything more than a one retreat attacker, other than Oranguru, which is the exception because it gets stuff back, so it is worth the extra retreat cost. Of course, he'd rather it was a smaller Oranguru with a lower retreat cost, but it's still only a retreat cost of 2. It can still be retreated with Air Balloon. as he plays a Cynthia. But there's no Stack Attacker, no Boswell, no Diancie, Prism Star, and none of that should surprise you here, incidentally. They should be fairly predictable moves on Joe's part. He knows that he loses if Alessandro can just get something in the active and stick it there. So he knows he needs to be wary of that, on the lookout for that, and stopping that happening. Luckily, he hasn't started. Now, if he'd started Stack Attacker this last game, that would have been pretty bad. Bearing in mind, Beast Ring also only works when your opponent's got 3 or 4 prizes remaining, and Alessandro ain't taking prizes. Sorry. Now, down comes Professor Magnolia. He's got Lily's Pokédoll. He's got Araquanid. He's got his own Oranguru there. He gets Minccino down, which is something Joe's not had. When I did the intro video for this tournament, one of the things I talked about was the fact that in a tournament such as this, we really wanted to include colorless as well as your own color so that everybody can have their consistency crutches. They can play Pidgeotto, they can play Oranguru, the one from Sword and Shield that draws cards. Well, that kind of draws cards. They can play Pidgeotto. And we see it here. The fact that they can play colorless is actually helping their decks run. Now, we do get the energy on Hitmonchan here, so it looks like we're going to have a hit and run attack at the least. Doesn't look like Joe's got much else, though. And remember, Game 1 was won because Alessandro was able to get rolling and get the energy off quickly. Game 2 was won because Joe was able to actually get his combo off. So, frankly, Joe needs to start doing more of what Joe wants to do and let Alessandro do less of what Alessandro wants to do. Fun times. Fun times. Now, Pidgey comes down on the bench, and oh look, it's a Blues Tactics. In a deck where you're not really attacking, and you're not rushing so much, Blues Tactics is great. It's delayed gratification. You don't get your 8 cards until the end of the turn, but you don't need your 8 cards until the end of the turn. So, you can kind of chill a little bit, and you're alright. Okay. So, looks like we've got a Pokemon communication coming down here. Oh, now we get some Minccino. How far does Joe want to go here? Because in theory, Joe would be able to use Hitmonlee here and hit something for 90 on the bench. But then he's got to discard the energy off of Hitmonlee to retreat, which might not be something he particularly wants to do. No, so he is just choosing, and I like this approach from Joe. I think this is a really good approach. He chooses instead to hit for 30 and then switch the Hitmonlee up. That preserves his energy. And when you're playing against one of these stall, disruption, energy denial, call them what you will, decks, one of the things you need, and Joe is an exceptional player. You know, he's got a World's Invite every year. He's top cut giant tournaments. Joe is a phenomenal player. One of the reasons we invited him. We also invited him because he's cool. Don't tell him I told you that. We'll see if he watches a video and hears me say it himself. Challenge accepted, Joe. If you heard this, send me a message. If I don't get no message, oh no, you didn't even watch my commentary, and that makes me sad. But one of the things Joe is doing here is thinking about resources. Would love to retreat Hitmonchan and attack with Hitmonlee, but actually that's wasting an energy we can't afford to waste. Down comes double Custom Catcher here. Now, bearing in mind, like I said, we've limited players to 2 of each card in their deck, which means he's only allowed to play 2 Custom Catcher. Pulling off double Custom Catcher when you're only allowed to play 2 in your deck and he's playing a deck that can't really get them from his prizes, that's impressive. It's very impressive. Now, Joe does get the Cinccino rolling here. I mean, it's great. And again, it just discards that. Well, discards and then it goes to Lost Zone. Diancie Prism Star. Shamelessly. All 3 games just going, yeah, he's gone. He gone. He needs air balloon energy. He's got energy, So it looks like... See, again, I don't mind attacking with Cinccino. You accelerate energy, you get damage on the board, it's nice, but the problem here is you lose the chain. Remember, one more time, you've got to attack with Hitmonchan, then Hitmonlee, then Hitmontop. So now that Joe attacks with Cinccino, he cannot snipe for 90. It means he's 2 turns away of hitting 90 to the bench, 3 turns away from hitting 60 to everything, and don't think Alessandro doesn't know that. As soon as Joe attacks with Cinccino, one of the things Alessandro is thinking right away is, oh great, right, brilliant. So I've got 2 turns until he can use Hitmonlee and 3 turns until he can use Hitmontop. That gives me time, that means I can prep. I can have my weaker Pokemon on the bench for an extra turn and it doesn't really matter. Would he be benching his second Lily's Pokédoll if he knew that Joe was able to Hitmontop this turn? Quite possibly not. But he knows it's not possible. So Alessandro is playing a bit of keep away at the moment. He still hasn't really done much. He's built up his board. He's given away an Araquanid. Araquanid got KO'd by Cinccino, but he hasn't really done very much. He's built up his board, but he's not been stopped. And Joe's had a slow start. Joe's not had a fast start this game. There was the double custom catcher. That was cool. But Joe's got free energy on the field and he's taken a prize. That's not a bad start against this kind of deck. He's going all right. Now, we do see that Slowking sitting on the bench. Ominously, it comes up. Now, he has just retreated the Lily's Pokédoll, which he's not allowed to do. There we go. Pops it on the bottom of his deck, and then plays a Crushing Hammer, and it comes up Tails. Lily's Pokédoll cannot retreat, but as a separate thing, you can put it on the bottom of your deck face down. So, hey-ho. Man, I should pass my judging tests again. Really wish I had, because I would love to have played the Professor Cup last weekend. I had such a good deck. Hits the heads on Pokemon Catcher, brings up what else? The Hitmonlee. The one who is not threatening an attack this turn and has no energy on. Had to be the choice. Now plays Slowking. Oh, you would think it would be Ordinary Rod? Get rid of some of his recovery options, but there's an argument to get rid of one of the supporters or the Oranguru here. I mean, I think we can safely say he's not going Stack Attacker. But I could make arguments for getting rid of any of the rest of those 6 cards from Slowpoke. Because they're all either draw or recovery cards. And what Joe needs to do is recover his energy and draw his energy. So Alessandro does go for the Oranguru. I like that plan. Remember, Oranguru can get any free cards back. And if Joe finds himself in the mid to late game having an absolute emergency going, wait, how am I ever going to attack again? Oranguru can get free energy back. So now Alessandro has gone and stuck that Hitmonlee in the active, having gotten rid of the Oranguru, and now Adventure Bag comes down for Joe, and he grabs himself an Air Balloon and a Vitality Band. The question always is, how much of a difference will Vitality Band make? Will it actually get you to hit the numbers? As it stands, both Cinccino and Hitmonchan are both free hit KOing Slowking. So Vitality Band doesn't make a huge difference, but it might do in a moment. But the Air Balloon for the Hitmonlee was pretty huge. Oh. No, I'm lying to you, ladies and gentlemen. Vitality Band actually makes a huge difference. Because Hitmonchan's first attack does 30, with Vitality Band 40. The second free energy attack, which he might not be able to pull off with Energy Denial, but you never know, he might, does 70, with Vitality Band 80. So if he attacks with the first attack, then the second attack with Vitality Band, that's 120, which is an exact KO. So no, actually, I take it back. Vitality Band makes a huge difference to the numbers here. Now, we do see a Pokemon Communication coming down. Question is, what does he really want here? Hitmontop. I was kind of hoping that's what he would go for. And then... oh, see, this opens up some fun next turn. If he uses Hit and Run this turn, then next turn he can either hit for 80 and get the KO on Slowking, or he can then start attacking with Hitmonlee. Remember, if Hitmonchan uses its second attack, you do stop the chain. The Hitmonchan, then Hitmonlee, then Hitmontop chain. So he's going to hit for 40 this turn. Can switch to the bench if he wants to. There's an argument to switch to Hitmonlee. But we all know, we've seen it, that Alessandro's playing Faber here. You don't really want to get stuck if your opponent drops a Faber. Plus, like I say, he's got the opportunity to get a KO next turn with a third energy. Real question is, of course, is there any energy denial that Alessandro's got right now? Is there anything on his board he can use to start running Joe out of energy? Because if not, Joe is going to start running away with this pretty quickly. So where do we go from here? We're in a little bit of a stalemate. Neither player has really been able to establish what they want to establish. Now there's the Team Yell Grunt. And in a way, that just kind of... that almost kind of sets Joe's tactics for him. He's now not getting a KO on that Slowking without using Hitmonlee. So there is an argument now for Joe to go, you know what, I used Hit and Run last turn. Why not just start using Hitmonlee now? Why not? Let's do this. No, Hitmonlee can only hit the bench. I was just double checking there. Hitmonlee cannot attack the active, so Joe would have to go after a bench Pokemon. He would have to give up an energy to retreat the Hitmonchan, which he might not be willing to do. And he would need an energy on the Hitmonlee, which he might not have. So he could just kind of delay the combo for a turn and just hit and run again. Oh, there's a Pokemon catcher. I'm assuming that was a Tails then, because he didn't drag anything up off the bench. Oh, that would have been good. Pulling something up off the bench and then trying to kind of attack around it. That would have been fun. It's not possible, but it would have been fun. It's only not possible because he flipped Tails, mind you. So now what's the play? Is it another 40 with Hitmonchan, keeping the combo alive? Or, no, he is choosing to retreat to Hitmonlee. So now we can do 90 damage. And remember, just takes out the Chinchino. And remember, it's not just about doing the 90 damage this turn. It is about now Hitmontop is in play for next turn. And that's huge. Because now Hitmontop does 60 to everything next turn, takes out the Lily's Pokédoll, takes out the Pidgeotto. And that's huge. We do see Palpad popping a Faber and a Team Yell Grunt back into Alessandro's deck, which we probably would have been able to expect. And now we see... okay. Yeah, so we did see Faber getting rid of the air balloon there, which isn't ideal. It's not the end of the world, but it's not ideal. Oh, here's a tricky one. It's not that tricky. It does mean he's leaving Joe with the air balloon, but remember, in order to get the combo, he needs the air balloon and he needs an energy for Hitmontop. Oh, doesn't matter. Wait, no, sorry. Joe can't play Rosa. Nothing's ever getting KO'd. That was Chinchino's ability. Discard a card from your hand, draw 2 cards. If he's got an energy, the choice for Joe here is extremely simple. You just attack with Hitmontop. You only actually take 1 prize doing so, but you also just start wrecking your opponent's board. Now, he is choosing to play a Cynthia and Caitlyn. He's also getting rid of a Farfetch to do so, grabbing a Marnie back, drawing 3 cards. Was one of those cards an energy? Because energy is what we're really worried about here. It's all about the energy at this stage. So there goes the air balloon onto Hitmonlee. That we could have seen coming. Needs to get out the active. Oh, no, it's Cinccino. Which means he's not able to get the attack. And that's so gutting when you're playing this deck. To get the attack with Hitmonchan, then get the attack with Hitmonlee, special combo, and then miss it with Hitmontop is just brutal. And yes, he gets to do 40 to Slowking and attach an energy to Hitmonchan. It's still fine, it's alright. But that's not what he wanted to do. That's not the goal here. He needed more than that. I mean, he's still in a pretty good position, mind you. And at least this way he's got his energy, he's rolling with his energy, he's getting that, working nicely, etc. There's plenty of good stuff going on. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that was not what Joe was going for. But is it enough for Alessandro? Like, don't get me wrong, he's slowing Joe down a little bit, and he's getting some energy loss zoned, etc. But is it actually working? Is it doing much here? Is it doing enough? I'm not sure it is. Like, he's slowing Joe down nicely, and he's annoying Joe, but... And we're looking at the board states here. Joe's still got an active Cinccino with an energy, and he's got a Hitmonlee with an energy, and a Hitmonchan with at least one energy. We'll see when Joe moves his hand. And now, I mean, you've got to think he's going for one of the ordinary rods here. Yeah. It's only one energy on the Hitmonchan. He gets rid of the ordinary rod. It's a recovery card. And now comes Martial Arts Dojo. Remember, Martial Arts Dojo is if you've got a basic fighting energy, not if you're a fighting Pokemon. So Cinccino with the basic fighting would do the extra damage here. Now, it's irrelevant for this attack. He's getting the KO anyway. But it might be relevant in the future. Speaking of getting the KO, Joe's going down to 3 prizes. Now, Alessandro does have another Slowking ready to go. But Joe's going down to 3 prizes. Now, I like this play. Because what he can essentially do is take the KO on Slowking here. Then next turn, he attacks with Hitmonlee into either the Oranguru. Well, it'll be the Oranguru now because it's on the bench. And then next turn, he'll take 2 prizes while getting rid of the Lily's Pokédoll. And then he's in a great place to actually go and get himself the win here. The combo's working nicely. Now, the Team Yell Grunt combo would be a nice one for Alessandro to try pulling off here. If he's got access to Team Yell Grunt. I confess I could not tell you right now how many he's got in his discard. But that would certainly be one he's looking for. Ooh, a second energy. Oh, he does have Team Yell. Not only does he have it, he has it in hand. So now can Joe respond? Oh, yes, my goodness, Joe can respond. Joe needs some shuffle draw, though. Because Joe's not getting a KO this turn. Like, not on the Slowking. Which means without a shuffle draw card, Alessandro knows he can get rid of another energy next turn. So he needs to find some shuffle draw, honestly, just to try and get the energy out of his hand. Yeah, that was a fairly obvious choice for Joe there. You go for the Oranguru because the Pidgeotto and Lily's Pokédoll are getting KO'd by Hitmontop anyway. So there's not really any reason to go anywhere other than the Oranguru for this. So down comes Blue's Tactics. It's going to draw him a bunch of cards, but... the problem is Joe's got 3 prizes left to take, and if he attacks with Hitmontop, he takes 2 of them next turn, while putting Slowking down to 60 HP, which is weirdly difficult for Joe to hit. Vitality Band and Martial Arts Dojo on a Cinccino would do it, But he's not, he's not got Martial Arts Dojo. One's discarded, one's in the lost zone. So I can tell you he doesn't have access to that right now. See, Joe does need to be careful here. Because there are 4 fighting energy in his lost zone, if he attacks with Hitmontop, he's got to discard an energy from Hitmonlee here and attach an energy to Hitmontop. And remember, Slowking isn't going down, so he can still try lost zoning next turn. And things are getting slightly awkward. So he's got the energy for Hitmontop. He has to go Hitmontop here. Oh no, because he's got Air Balloon on Hitmonlee, hasn't he? Oh, okay, no, that's so much better. So now we see him take the 2 prizes and get rid of a Lily's Pokédoll. He's now 60 damage away from winning the entire match. But what does he have? Like, how does he do that 60 damage? Okay, I was just double checking that Hitmontop did do to the active, but it does. It's 60 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon if your Hitmonlee used special combo during your last turn. Which, of course, he did. But honestly, like, for Joe to hit 60 damage, we're looking Cinccino, Martial Arts Dojo, Vitality Band. That's not enough. Now, I tell you what, this would be a good time to drop Diancie Prism Star. Because that with a Vitality Band would get a KO with Hitmonchan. But that got lost zoned ages ago. It's so difficult for Alessandro here. Because what does he do? I mean, he goes after all the energy, but you're talking kind of Team Yao Grunt and Crushing Hammer and Slowking all working together, but because he's had to focus on Slowking, he's not been using Oranguru to reuse his card, so I don't think he's got any Crushing Hammer left. I'm not sure he's got any Team Yao Grunt left. And sooner or later, even if it's not all in one go, Joe's going to do 60 damage. And that's going to be it. That's going to be the game. And Joe's going to be moving on to round 2, where I believe he'll be facing Josh. The lovely Josh Marking. Him of Team Fish Knuckles. And his Psychic deck. That's who's waiting for Joe in top 4. The other top 4 game, of course, being David's Darkness deck against Jack's Fire deck. And I believe we should now do a game every 3 days until the end of the tournament. We shouldn't be having any more little hiatuses. Technical problems, blah, 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 boring, nobody cares. But I know there was a slightly longer gap between the last game and this one. Let's just say I did everything I possibly could to try and bring you this game slightly earlier, and it just wasn't possible. It physically wasn't possible, so hey-ho, ladies and gentlemen. We got it now, and it's been a fun game. I mean, it's been a control game, and control games are always, by their very nature, a bit slower. So we do see a Hapu there. I think it's got to just be energy denial at this stage. If Joe gets 2 attacks off, he wins. And remember, he can start attacking with Cinccino if he's got an energy, and then accelerating energy while he's doing so, and that's going to be it's going to be hard to come back from. Now, it's also worth noting, if Joe has another energy and a way to do an extra 10 damage, Martial Arts Dojo or Vitality Band, he can actually end the game next turn, because Hitmontop can do Spinning Attack, 2 energy, 50 damage. That is an option. Don't know if it's a great option, but hey, if he's going to win in the game. But like I say, I know he's got no Martial Arts Dojo left. I know he's used 1 Vitality Band. In fact, I think there's still a Vitality Band on the Hitmonchan on the bench. I don't know if he's got another one left in his deck. Now, the good news is he's using a Quick Ball here, which will allow him to search through his deck. And right now, Joe's looking through and going, right, here's what's left in my deck. And Joe's going through the same things we are. Well, I can attack twice with Hit and Run, or twice with Cinccino, or I could technically get the win right now with Cinccino with Martial Arts Dojo and Vitality Band, or with an Energy and one of them onto Hitmontop. And he's looking at what's left in his deck, how many cards are in his deck, what the chances are of actually hitting what he needs to hit. And then kind of rolling from there. Now, because the other thing is, Joe needs to be extremely careful here that he doesn't overextend. Because if he overextends and misses the KO by one turn, and then Alessandro gets rid of all his energy, Alessandro's moving on to top 4 to face Josh. Not sure an energy denial deck is amazing against Malamar, but then again, you do have lots of gusting and all. But if Alessandro wins, we can talk about his matchup with Josh. So, I want to know what the options are. I want to know what the calculations are here. It's been a very long turn with very little going on. Now remember, with only one energy, Hitmontop actually can't attack. It's not possible. It's not allowed to attack. It's got to have the second energy to do the 50 damage. So where are we? And this is nerve-wracking time, lady. This is a nerve-wracking time in a tournament game. Because, I mean, if you're Joe, you're thinking, right, I've got it. Wait, no, I've still got one prize left to take. He knows as well as anyone that if he makes a wrong move, Alessandro can pounce on it, run him out of energy, and win the game. One prize remaining against an energy denial deck doesn't really mean very much. You've got to get all 6. So what's he playing with? He also needs to make sure he doesn't deck out, of course. Last thing he wants to do is draw too many cards when he hasn't got the win on the board and then actually not be able to finish out the game next turn. So it's all very... Okay, if this was a real game, Joe, I'm calling a judge on you. I say real game, you know what I mean? If it was in a tournament with actual judges sitting there watching them, it's a real game. We use real cards and everything. So it looks like he is going to retreat with Hitmontop. And Hitmonchan's going to go active. I like this play. No, Hitmonlee's going to go active. Oh, no, sorry. He's going to attack with Hitmonchan, then put Hitmonlee active using Hit and Run. It now means that if Alessandro drops anything other than, like, an Oranguru, Joe can just snipe it for the win. So it means there will be no Slowpoke, no Jupiter, no Goldeen. He can't drop them, or Joe will just... No Minccino, no Pidgey. Anything like that gets dropped on the bench, Joe can just ping them for the win. He's already got the energy on Hitmonchan. Now, one thing to bear in mind, of course, Hitmonchan can only hit the bench, but he can just retreat into Hitmonlee can only hit the bench. He can just retreat into Hitmonchan and take the win. So this seems like the last turn for Alessandro. This is a turn where he looks at every card and he looks at all of his options and he goes, right, is there anything that I can do? Realistically... he needs to get the energy off the Hitmonchan. Because Hitmonlee only hits the bench, not the active. Which means that potentially he could buy himself a little bit of time here. Free energy 90 would get the KO, but Joe's miles away from that. Special combo can only be used if your Hitmonchan used Hit and Run during your last turn. So maybe if Alessandro could get the energy off of Hitmonchan, but we know he's used both his Pokemon Catcher... Pokemon Crushing Hammer, there we go. Maybe if he's got a Faber and he can get rid of the Air Balloon, But see, even then, Joe would be able to just retreat. So we'd need to get rid of the air balloon and the energy and hope that he gets stranded in the active. But even then, a single energy for Joe would allow him to retreat the Hitmonchan and take the win. Now, we've moved into a very slow portion of the game. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end. This is the end of the game. And it really is important to try and make sure you do everything you can and not just throw it away. This is game free, remember, right? This is game free. Whoever loses this game is out. They're done. This single elimination tournament. Whoever wins is moving on to face Josh Markin in top 4. Whoever loses is done. They got their lovely mats and sleeves from Dragon Shield as a nice little thanks for taking part prize. But there is a big goodie box being given away to the winner. And one of these players is about to be out of contention. Though I will say this turn is taking a very long time. Joe's got 1 prize left to take. Alessandro's got to get rid of like 9 or 10 cards in Joe's deck. And I don't know if it's even possible at this stage. I don't think Alessandro's actually got what he needs to get rid of it. Remember, Joe's played this very carefully. The Hitmonlee being in the active means that in order for Alessandro to stop Joe attacking and winning the game, he needs to get rid of the energy and the air balloon and hope that Joe doesn't have an energy to retreat. Which, to be fair, would be the getting rid of the energy to retreat would be easy because he's got Slowking to get rid of a card from Joe's hand. But even then, Joe can draw for the turn and then draw 2 with Chinchino, so yeah. So we do see a Pokemon catcher coming down here. It's a Tails. That also might have helped. But even then, Joe would need a single energy to retreat and attack for the game. So now we see Ordinary Rod coming back down. He's going to get a couple energy and a couple Pokemon. But remember, if he benches anything with 90 or less HP, Hitmonlee will just be able to KO it for the win. So we cannot bench anything that week. And I think this might be more of Alessandro just going, right, what can I do? Let's say I can get any Pokemon back. What can I do? What are my options? Now, I didn't see what he grabbed there, unfortunately. That was extremely quick. Ooh. Maybe Jupiter. Maybe Jupiter could do this. Now, we'd have to get the Jupiter in the active, but in theory, Jupiter's got the attack that stops his opponent retreating. No, because even if he did that, Joe could just snipe the Slowking for the win. No, ladies and gentlemen, after all that, there is nothing to be done. Congratulations to Joe. He's moving on into the top 4 to face Josh Marking. Thank you very much to the lovely Joe and to Alessandro for joining in, taking part in the tournament, being really good sports, making good decks, playing a good game, and doing it twice because of technical issues. These dudes are awesome. Thank you very, very much. And to Dragon Shield for helping come up with the tournament. This has been fun. It's been lots of fun. We got some round 2 games coming up shortly, so make sure you stick around for them. Make sure you're subscribed to check out the rest of the games. Follow me on Twitter at @TheWossy, where I'll be tweeting everything you need to know about this. And the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.